Multilinguals. What's your "they didn't realize I couldn't understand their language" story? I was solo traveling in Morocco. I'm 22, female, and speak Arabic enough to understand conversations, basic words and phrases, etc. I was trying on clothes at a small shop, and there were two women helping me choose what to try on. They started talking about me in Arabic, saying how I would be a great wife for one of the ladies' sons. They were going on, and as I was leaving, I responded in Arabic, "No thank you, but I appreciate your help," and they were stunned. I live in England, but I come from Poland and am fluent in Polish alongside English. A couple of days ago, I was ordering at a Subway when two Polish employees started talking. It went something along the lines of, "This fatso wants chicken and bacon," and they laughed. On a side note, I feel like that's not that uncommon of an order, right? When it got to putting vegetables on the sub, I gave my order fully in Polish with a big smile on my face. The order cost me £4.80, but the looks on their faces were priceless. Not me, but my dad. We are from South Africa. My dad speaks 5 English, Afrikaans, similar to Dutch, French, Italian, and German. He immigrated to the UK in early 1995 when a lot of other South Africans were doing the same due to embedded racism of a fledgling nation. But I digress. He was on the Underground in London when he overheard two guys speaking about a pretty woman on the train in Afrikaans, my dad's native tongue. According to Dad, they were being incredibly rude and using quite graphic descriptions of what they wanted to do to her. My dad decided to speak up and told them to F off and to not speak to people that way. They don't know who is listening. The two guys looked horror-struck and shut up completely. The lady turned to my dad at her stop and said in fluent Afrikaans, "I bet they couldn't do half those things with their tiny Johnsons." My dad just laughed in shock and watched her get off the train. Pretty hilarious. Was a high school student in Toronto, but I speak Slavic, which is similar to Czech and Polish. I was going to school on the subway in the morning and two good-looking women started to talk in Polish right next to me. I usually like to strike up conversations with fellow Central or Eastern Europeans. Unfortunately, they started talking about how one of them has a burning pee problem. With nowhere to move on the packed subway and no headphones, it was an awkward thing for a 15-year-old to hear from two ladies. It got a little worse later when they started to talk about women problems. Now, I have no issues with that convo nowadays, of course, but 15-year-old virgin me was a bit mortified. A long 45 minutes. I'm a Black American. My dad was military and stationed in Korea from his late teens to mid-20s. He picked up on the language and as a child taught me. It was like our secret language to talk around my mom with. She hated it. Anyway, I went to college with a large Asian population. While me and some friends were in a study room, a group of students came and asked us to leave so they could use the room, in English. There was no time limit, no sign-up, no nothing where they had that right. So I explained that we were here first, why do they want this particular room? Then they start speaking Korean and say something along the lines of, "Ugh, of course the black dog is being difficult, they've been here for a while that they need to leave. Maybe we can lie and say the professor reserved it." I responded, in Korean, "Call me a dog in English so I can punch you and everyone in this room knows why." Their faces turned bright red. They couldn't say anything, they just looked at me in shock and then left the room. My dad grew up in Egypt and now travels the world for Dole, the fruit company. Once he was in Morocco at a plant who were possible suppliers and they tried to deceive him. They showed him the safety guidelines that were written in Arabic, but were describing different standards in English. My dad doesn't look like a typical Middle Easterner and has a very nondescript accent, so they thought they could fleece him. After the dude was done talking, my dad says, "That's not what it says." And the guy says, "What do you mean?" My dad repeats the statement, but in Arabic. The guy apparently dropped his jaw and all he could say was, "You speak Arabic?" Needless to say, the Moroccan plant did not get the gig. Moved to Thailand and took extensive language training. Was drinking coffee in a quiet shop and the barista and the waitress started guessing my age, where I was from, why I came there 3 days in a row, lived close by, and I was thinking, cool, they think I'm cute, how flattering. And then the barista said, "But he is a little fat." So when I left, I told her my age and hometown. When she brought the change back, I told her that yes, I am a little fat. I must have been around 8 to 9 and we were returning from a vacation in Arga. We were traveling by train and there was this lovely family seated in front of us. They were British, I think. My mom was asleep and I was reading Champak, a kid's story magazine in India, used to be very popular in the 90s. They were talking amongst themselves and suddenly one of the girls looked at me and said, "She's so adorable." So instead of doing the proper thing, i.e. say thank you, I blushed hard and pretended to go to sleep. If by chance you guys are reading this, thank you, that memory still brings a smile to my face. I was on the subway in New York a few months ago when a family sitting across from me was playing I Spy in Hebrew with their kids. The parents went around describing each person they saw on the train, so when they got to me, I decided to play along. I looked up from my book, made a funny face, and covered my face with the book before the kids could find me. The parents started laughing and said to their kids, "I spy someone who understands us." The parents and I shared a good laugh about it while their kids got really excited that someone else spoke Hebrew. They never figured out who it was, but it made my commute a lot more fun. My late best friend, who was big, tall, and blonde, was in Tim Hortons. He speaks fairly fluent Arabic, having spent 7 years working in Saudi Arabia. 3 Arabic men were sitting at a table making very lewd comments about the women in the shop. My buddy turned to them and said in Arabic, "You need to shut up. You never know who is listening." They got very confused and left soon after. My SO is a tattoo artist who can speak Bulgarian, Turkish, English, and German. One day we were querying in the supermarket and 2 guys behind us were laughing and snickering. She turned around and said something to them. Afterwards, she was laughing while one of the guys went bright red. Afterwards, I asked her what that was about. The guys were like, "Look at her arm, those tattoos, disgusting. How can you tattoo a naked woman on yourself?" in Turkish. My SO turned around and said, "Thanks, bro." So the first guy asked her to repeat because he didn't even register that she could be speaking Turkish and assumed he misheard English. That's when she said, "For the tattoo opinion." It was funny from there. The guy apologized and said he has never felt so much shame in his life. His friend was saying at least buy them, my SO and I, some beers. This was in a small town outside of Dublin City, so I can understand why they didn't think there would be any Turkish speakers around. I've said this before, it happened a while ago. I went to a psychiatric emergency ward once and asked for help and if they were comfortable to speak English. I understand Danish but have a hard time making myself understandable in it and didn't really feel like an idiot at a crucial time of my life. I stayed there for 4 days without anyone realizing I knew what they were saying about me right in front of me. 2 of the nurses thought I was cute. One doctor thought I was lying all the time. A patient thought I was a spy for the staff. A lot happened in those 4 days. It made my stay way more enjoyable than it should have been. My husband is the bilingual one, not me. He's from Colombia, so he speaks Spanish fluently, but grew up in the US and has been here most of his life. He also has a really fair complexion. Most people think he's just Caucasian. Anyway, we were in Cabo San Lucas, Mexico, looking for a place to eat. We get to a restaurant and he asks in English how much it would cost for all-you-can-eat tacos. The guy at the door said it's $15. His friend next to him said to the guy in Spanish, "I thought it's $12. And the first guy responded, "Yeah, but they don't know that." My husband, of course, understood everything. He told them in Spanish that they're lying ripoffs and we'd be going somewhere else. The guy's expression was priceless. I'm an extremely white American man. I was stationed in Korea and a buddy and I went into a store that was slightly off the beaten path. My buddy was in a different section of the store and found something he liked. He asked the shopkeep how much it was. The shopkeep said in Korean, "Well, you're an American, so $65. Translation and currency exchange provide for ease of reference. I looked over and saw a sign on the wall that said the exact item he wanted was $40. I approached the shopkeep and asked him in Korean how much it cost, to which he replied $40. So I responded in Korean, "Why are you charging him $65? He got rather embarrassed and apologetic, offered to sell the item for $35, and gave us each a soft drink for free. Oh, the cooks at my job still don't know I'm fluent in Spanish, LOL. Yes, I know everything you're saying, Alejo. I have found if I ever want to diffuse a situation with someone I assume is a native Spanish speaker, I switch languages and ask if they want to speak Spanish. 9 out of 10 times, everyone's stress goes down and the other person is relieved that they can express themselves better in a more comfortable language, and I'll still understand. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to the channel, press the like button, and multilingual people, write in the comments what interesting situations happened to you.